Well, the next contest that came up on the AEW All Out pay per view extravaganza was one that you just claimed that you liked better than this strap match. And I've got to admit, it was not as bad as I was afeared it might be because Harpo kept himself under control and didn't do a lot of the really egregiously phony or silly or stupid shit he's known for. He's even got his faces somewhat under control. You know, because they used to make that face that reminded us of when his butt plug would fall out unexpectedly. But it was, of course, Twinkle Toes McFingerbang taking on our friend from the land of the rising sun, Mr. Take-A-Shit, with his manager, Don Fallis. So, why does Kenny Olivier still get the pompous heel ring introduction when he's a babyface? Where Smiley Roberts has to give the over-the-top description of all of his accolades and things that he's done and blah, blah, blah. And he's a babyface now. The other guy has turned on him. The other guy was their friend. You know how big that is for these guys. Was their friend and turned and joined Don's evil group. So if Twinkle Toes is coming out as the babyface, why is he still being announced like he's a pompous, arrogant, obnoxious heel?
It has nothing to do with babyface or heel. It's just all about that inside joke.
Okay, well, it's good we got that cleared up. As I said, this wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. They wrestled at the start. And Take-A-Shit gave Kenny a belly to back and almost dropped him on his head. I don't know whether that was a botch or supposed to be that way. And they did go to the floor, but they waited the 4 whole minutes before they fought on the floor. And then, of course, Twinkle Toes just took over out of nowhere and started doing moonsaults off the railing or whatever. And then he got the Indian Deathlock, and they reenacted one of his favorite scenes from Sissy Boy Slap Fight. Look that up on the internet, people. If you think I'm messing with you, Tyson Smith is in the cast listing. Sissy Boy Slap Fight. Anyway, I wrote that Take-A-Shit needs to follow through on his arm whips. He's getting a little Vader-like with those. But he looks like a star. I like this guy, and he's very athletic. And, you know, this was a modern-style match where he gave Kenny a brainbuster on the floor that looked great, and then turned around instead of trying to roll him in the ring to beat him. He started pulling chairs out from under the ring and went to use one, drew it back over his head so the referee could take it away. But while the referee was dealing with Take-A-Shit and the chair that he'd pulled away from him, Don on the outside takes 4 chairs, 4 of them, and stacks them on Kenny's stomach, and Kenny doesn't move them off. So that Take can do a senton onto the chairs on Kenny on his stomach. And then they got heat on Kenny. Everything that Kenny does annoys me. Whether it's his odd movements or his weird faces or whatever it is, everything that he does, every move he makes, I just don't like this human being. But finally, he did a dive and gesticulated his way through a comeback and hit a couple of his begonia suplexes, the marigold suplexes, or the snapdragon suplexes. That's it. And it started dragging for me, and I know the people were liking it, but they will not go home. They have to do, as you said, false finish after false finish. And then, this was not a street fight, right? This was not Falls Count Anywhere, not a street fight, not Texas Death. It wasn't no DQ. So Don leaves the screwdriver where Take can find it. And as Kenny picks him up like he's going to give him the one-winged fairy, Take-A-Shit draws the screwdriver back like he's going to stab Kenny in the head. And the referee grabs the screwdriver and takes it away from him. Isn't that, when you see someone attempting to stab someone, isn't that a disqualification?
It should be, and I'm not a fan of any of the screwdriver stuff.
And then they did more false finishes. And the fans were into him, but there was more of them. And then Takeshita hit a knee lift with his pad down, the little V-trigger thing that Kenny does that's the shittiest. Where's Mr. Wrestling 2 when you need him? That was a fucking knee lift.
Come on. That's ridiculous.
Oh, come on.
Omega's knees look good.
The guy can take no bump. He's already on his knees. He smashes him into the ropes with him. If I'm going to see somebody hit a knee lift, I want to see the guy raised up in the air and fucking whoosh, or like Bobby Eaton used to take the bump for Wrestling 2, spinning around in a fucking circle or something.
That was Bobby Eaton. Wrestling 2's knee lift looked like shit by that point.
All right. Okay, then Bobby Eaton taking a knee lift from anybody. That's what I want to see, not this fucking bleh. And as I wrote, as usual, they do 1,000 false finishes, and it ends on the simplest move done, the least impressive strike, the least impressive bump. 25 fucking minutes. For a Kenny match, it wasn't bad. I love Takeshita, and that's why I tolerated it, because I see something in him. But I didn't think this was as good as the strap match. I'm sorry.
I thought it was a good match. Best match of the show to me. Hate the screwdriver stuff. It's unnecessary. It's unneeded. Plus, everyone has a screwdriver. We know that the handles aren't that gigantic. So it's silly. And beyond that, I think Takeshita, I watched this match for him, not Omega. Not that I have a problem with Omega against him, but it was really, I want to see him in this spot as a big singles match on the show. He continues to impress. And when you see that footage of him just a few years ago, let alone when he first started, but just a couple of years ago, he's still filling out, it seems like.
Yeah, he's getting bigger and he's going to mature, and I think he's got a lot of upside.